Alright, welcome back to Taco Bowler Gaming, and it's time for another tutorial. Today we're going to be talking about this menu, the Stability and Expansion menu. So let's go over here. I've kind of prepared for today's video. I have Castile here. I think it's a good nation to begin playing as. And I have taken some territory that is my religion, and I'm about to take a territory that is not my religion. So you've just completed a war. Congratulations. And you've taken some land. Let's go ahead and take the peace deal, right? I'm annexing all of Granada here. It'll be wonderful. Should get a mission. It'll be great. And there we go. Now, I have another mission? Oh, I expanded Castile. Okay. Now what do you do? What do you do with newly conquered land? First off, you're going to be corruption. You're going to gain corruption. So everything that you have... Alright, first off, let's stop. First things first, you get overextension. The development of the territory you're taking over gives you overextension. And that is listed here. So each province that I've conquered has overextension. You can see this in the peace menu. I didn't show that, and I am sorry. But you can see the overextension that each province that you conquer is taking. Everything also costs a certain amount of administrative power to core, to make it one of our core provinces, and that will hopefully reduce unrest. So right now, I have taken 2 provinces from Portugal, and those are a portion of the way through coring. And then I've just taken these 4 from Granada. I have not yet cored them at all. If I just sit here, they will never become cores. Each province has a certain amount of... Or, let's go back here. So, your corruption will grow. My corruption is currently growing by 0.31 every month because of overextension. It is also growing by 0.01 every month because of something called religious unity. And so I have to spend ducats, 3.66 a month right now, to stop that, to bring it back. So I'm rooting out corruption at 0.32. There's other ways to root out corruption. You'll figure that out. If you just keep looking at this, sometimes you'll figure out, oh, hey, this is, helping with corruption, or it's not. We might talk about those at a later day as well. We'll certainly talk about the economy tab in a future video, probably the next one. So, right now, I have a few problems going on in my country. I have a unrest at 4.87. That is because my legitimacy is at 89 out of 100. So instead of being at -2, I think, it's at -1.58. My war exhaustion is high, and so that's contributing plus 0.329 to my national unrest. War exhaustion is found on this page. It's right up here. You get war exhaustion from losing men in battle. You get war exhaustion from having your territory sieged down. Actually, in this past war, I had this entire little bit here was sieged down by Portugal. You have war exhaustion from just simply being at war. It doesn't go up from being at war, but it also doesn't go down. If you're at peace, it goes down. You can spend your diplomatic power to reduce it. So if I spent 75, I could reduce this here, and you can see down to 1.29. My national unrest is now at plus 2.87 because the war exhaustion is down. Spend it a little bit more, it's all the way gone. And now my war exhaustion is at plus 1.58, much more manageable. What does war exhaustion do? It produces unrest. War exhaustion itself produces unrest, as well as several other factors. Overextension produces unrest. Your national unrest can affect this as well. As if you have national unrest that's low, that number kind of goes down. This is someplace where you can see your rebels. So I have a lot of rebel problems. And you can see that if this Castilian noble rebels were to fire, I would have to fight 30,000 men. Now, noble rebels are a little bit difficult, but they're not too difficult. Peasants are pretty easy. Particularists are pretty easy in comparison to other armies. You don't take them completely lightly, but one full army can take on an outnumbered batch. But still, 30,000, probably not something I want to fight with. Portuguese separatists. So in these provinces I've taken from Portugal here, I have Portuguese separatists. And so if they fire, I would be fighting 15,000 men in one of these two provinces. For Granadan separatists, I have 4 provinces that were producing Granadan separatists. And if they were to fire, I would have 16,000 people that I would have to fight there. Now, my army right now is only 31,000 strong. So that would be a problem if I had to fight all those rebellions at once. Don't want to do that. So I need to lower unrest. How might I lower unrest? Well, for starters, I'm overextended. So I need to make sure that I core these provinces. Now, I already started the core on Portuguese provinces, but let's go ahead and start here. So I'm going to spend my administrative power, and I'm going to core these provinces. How you core them, in what order, is personal preference. Some people like to do it by largest to smallest in cost. If you want to do that, you can click the cost button twice to get the largest, smallest here. If you want to do it largest to smallest in overextension, which usually is one and the same, but sometimes it's not, you can click the overextension button. I personally kind of like to do it this way, because the more I can just knock off, the faster, the more this number goes down. So I like to go from least expensive to most expensive, but right now I have plenty of administrative power, so I can core all of them. You just click that button. In 1.30, there will be a core all button, which will be so handy. So now, once those get done with their cores, which you can see this will be done on the 9th of April, 1451, and this one will be done on 2nd February, 1452. So once I get to that date, these cores will be done. The Overextension will go down by 1912, and then all of these. And with it, the national unrest, or the unrest produced by that Overextension of 3.05, will also go down. What else produces unrest? Well, religious unity is at plus 0.27. So that is, I think, with all provinces. Yeah. So how would I fix that? Well, I've got to convert these 4 provinces. These are all Sunni. If you go to the religious tab here, these are Sunni. They're occupied by Catholic nations, namely me. So each one of these is a percentage of the total development that I have, and so they contribute to lowering my religious unity. But Granada by 4.2%, Malaga by 2.1%, etc., etc. Once I finish the core, then we can talk about conversion, but I'll probably talk about that at another point. But that religious unity produces some unrest, 0.27. Now, 0.27 is not very much, so it's highly likely that I wouldn't have to really worry about that. That's not going to fix too much, but it can get bad if your religious unity is down like at 30% or something like that. So just something to keep in mind. You do want to try and keep as much as possible that religious unity up around 70% or higher, as much as you can. What else can I do to reduce unrest? Well, the corruption being high actually improves unrest. So corruption is at the corruption that I have is at 0.82. And that actually lowers my unrest by 0.16 in each of these provinces. So one thing that I could do is that I could actually say, you know what? I'm perfectly fine having that corruption grow. Reduce the rooting out of corruption to 0. I get some money. Corruption goes up. Now, corruption hurts some other things. You notice that all power cost, minimum autonomy, mandate growth modifier, all of those things. So it does hurt other things, but it does help unrest. If I was desperate for unrest, I might say, you know what, we'll let corruption go and run rampant, we'll get corrupt. It will be fine. Another thing that is there is intolerance. So this is one of the reasons I wanted to make sure I had Catholic provinces as well. In the religious tab, you have some things up here. Now, tolerance of the truth phase, so tolerance of Catholics, is at 4.8. But the tolerance of heathens is at negative 2.2. And what that does is it produces the negative, or the 2.76 positive intolerance unrest in this province. Over here, however, the tolerance is a negative 4.79, because Catholics I like, heathens I don't. I hope that helps there. So this province, being Catholic, actually has a lower unrest than this province, being Sunni, even though everything else at the moment is the same. Separatism, well, almost the same. Separatism is the last thing. That starts off at 15 or 20. It should be 20, so I don't know if Castile has a modifier or something for that. I don't think so, no. So I don't know why it's at 20, but it starts off at 15, and then it goes down by 0.5 yearly until it hits 0. There are ways to lower that, but that's where it is. So I actually conquered this from Portugal 3 years ago, and so separatism is at 13.5 instead of 15. But that is unrest. So you try to mitigate some of those factors in order to reduce unrest. Another way you can reduce unrest, let me see if it's, yes. There we go. So I'm going to bring all of my armies down here to Sevilla, and we will talk about the next one that we can do to reduce unrest. By the way, I'm going to be losing money, and so one thing that we might consider doing... okay, so I am over the supply limit by 2, so I need to get rid of 2 of my units. I'm going to just get rid of 2 cav and 2 infantry just for simplicity's sake. So right now, let's go ahead and move you here just for to show it. So now, it should be, maybe it takes a month. Okay, so now the unrest has ticked to 14.3 because friendly troops 5. So my troops being present makes the rebels think twice at 5 unrest. It's still 19.3, however, over here in Granada. What if I want to fix that? Well, let's go back to Sevilla, where I'm not going to lose men to attrition. And we can click this button here and enable autonomous rebel suppression. What that does, normally brings up a map. Maybe that's a thing here. I might have to go to the state. Let's see what happens at the end of the month when this ticks up. So I guess that was... Alright, so that was end of the year. So now we have friendly troops in that province, and probably everything else in the state. I'm going to guess that's the case. No, okay. Well, if you have a DLC, you can do a map, and you can kind of extend all the way out there. So one way we could reduce unrest would be to spread these armies, this army, into 6. So I'm going to split by hitting this button. The S button is what I hit there. Let's move all of these armies into here. And by the way, I clicked all of them. I moved them all here, and then I just hit the V key, and that closes one of them. It goes from the bottom to the top. And so I just hit the V key to go here. Helps in war when you're trying to siege down an entire country. So now we have the Granadan separatists. Each of the unrest has gone down a little bit, right? 18, 16, 16, 16 instead of the 19 it was. That's one way that you could do that. Similarly, I could do that up here. Another thing that would potentially help with rebels, or not potentially, what would help with rebels, is to boost your stability. So stability is a feature that has a range from -3 to +3. It's affected by multiple things in game. Right now it's at 0. Most nations, I believe, start at 0. I don't know if it's all, but most nations start at 0. And you can spend your admin, or some events occasionally, but you can spend your administrative power to boost stability. Most times you want to keep it at least 1. Just for the benefits, but you can get it up to 3 if you have some extra admin. Now you'll notice that to boost the stability, my power is required, more power is required. Because of how overextended I am, it costs an additional 30.5% in order to boost stability. Because of the religion, it costs an extra 9%. So presumably all of the religious unity that you don't have up to 100, so 100 minus 9 is 91. That 9 is added on to the cost of stability. And then the corruption is at 0.8. I'm still going to spend that just to show you. So we're at plus 1.57. Now we go to 1, and we're actually at 0.57 because positive stability plus 1. Go up to positive stability plus 2, that goes down even further. Plus 3, it goes down even further. So that is extraordinarily helpful to mitigate rebellions. Now this is down to 8.7 because we have added that positive stability in. Another way you could do that would be to increase your legitimacy. Let me see if I can do that without DLC. I cannot. So your legitimacy is going to go up normally. You can kind of check that there, but plus 0.46 every year. So that's a good thing to be making sure that you do. There will be events occasionally that will increase stability. There'll be events that can decrease it. The final thing that you can do to mitigate rebellions is that you can increase autonomy in a province. Now, autonomy here, so one of my core provinces that has been stated, let's just look here, has an autonomy of 25. It's been given to an estate, so it has an autonomy of 25. That means that I get 25, or I get 75% of all of the benefits, the taxes, the production, and the manpower that this province produces. I get 75% of that. In Toledo, my capital, or in La Mancha here, I get 99.6% of it because we do have autonomy at plus 0.40 because of that corruption. So I have 0.33 and then 1.99 out of the production, which is the gold from the Mancha. Let me see if I can find one here. So yeah, 0.22 in taxes, 0.08 in production. I get 0.30. If I raise autonomy here, then that number goes down, because now I'm only getting 74.6%, right? So my income from this province just went down. In a newly conquered territory, you are only getting 25%, because 75% is autonomous, stays in the province, stays with the local nobles, etc. So you're only getting 25% here. And so I'm only getting 0.4, 0.5 for a total of 0.09. From a pretty good province, 12 development province. That's only 0.09, so probably I can raise the autonomy. If I raise the autonomy, the unrest goes down by 10. Autonomy increased plus 10. And now, this is not producing any unrest. This other one I took still is. This one is not. So if I go over here, the Portuguese separatists have been reduced to 12,000 because of that province being there. If I raise the autonomy in the other one, now that unrest is gone. The Portuguese separatists, you can see grayed out. No province is actually wanting to rebel, so this rebellion will not fire. It's going to go down to 0 and be gone. However, here, this one, they are definitely still wanting to fire. And so it's important to note that, we have this going on, right? All of these noble rebels, all of these provinces are at plus 0.7. So, all of those provinces, 15 provinces, would be contributing. Now, I don't want to go through and increase autonomy in 15 provinces that are producing a lot of my income, right? I'm only making 0.41 ducats as it is. I don't want to lose any more. So I'm going to look to mitigate that some other way. Probably in this case, I'm just going to finish these cores. The overextension should go down by, 31%, down to 30. So basically half, and that 0.7 will be long since gone because the overextension will only be contributing 1.5. And then all I have to do is worry about the Grenadans. So now, because I only have to deal with the Grenadans, we're going to actually just sit on Granada's provinces to get that friendly troops modifier, which is based on size of the army. So, like, we'll go ahead and get the next month. So it updates so you can see that. So friendly troops is 0.175 here. Instead of the 0.5, it's 0.2 here because it's got 8. So, you know, if I wanted to, I could increase the size of these armies because I do have some room. I have 2 more I could build. So let's build a couple more just to help mitigate that problem. But let's go ahead and finish the cores. You can see core constructions over here. That will help. Looks like this one will be done first. That might be enough for what I wanted to show. So now it is part of the empire. And now we're at 0.01. Now each rebellion has a chance of going up. You can see the rebels over here. So these noble rebels, no one really wants to rebel, right? There's just a little bit of rebellious nature. And so they have a chance of going up by 10% each month, but it's only 2.5% with this unrest in these provinces. And so, generally speaking, based on averages, it would take 13.3 years without any change in unrest for that to fire. So it's not going to fire. However, because this one, they're at 0, it has a 0% chance of going up. In fact, it will go down. For the Grenadans, it has a 23.7% chance of increasing to the next phase based on the unrest in these provinces, so it is likely that it will fire, and likely that it will fire in 2.8 years. I'm going to go ahead and let Porto, or Oporto, go ahead and increase their course. I am also going to actually pull my armies out of Grenadan territory because I actually want the rebellion to fire, if at all possible. Alright, so now they are considered part of our patrimony, and so we can go over here. We can state this province. You have a certain number of states that you can take. The number of states, the maximum number of states that I can have is 17. I have 8, and then I have 2 territories. So every province is in a state here. And for us, this state is right here, right? This state is a state, that is a state. Now, right now, this is a territory. I can make it a state. I can make up to, what was it? Up to 9 more a state. I only have 2 to do so with, but I can make up to 9 more a state, and there's ways, you know, eventually you get more states. Here it is. So at level 8 of admin tech, I would get 3 more states. At level 12, I would get 3 more states. So I just click this button. Once everything that you own has been turned into a territorial core, you can click that button, and then you can core all provinces there, or it does come up here and you can core them in whatever order you would like. And now, right, the autonomy is at 99.5, but it actually can go all the way down to 0, or if I give it to an estate, because you can give provinces in a state to an e-state, it can go down to 25 at most. But, cool feature, you can see the taxes, we get 0 out of 7. We get 0.22, right? We get 0 out of 0.22. And so we get none here. However, if I were to give this to, say, the clergy, clergy is taxes, burghers is nobility, or is production, and then nobility is manpower. Right now we're getting 0 manpower. If I were to give it to one of these estates, let us figure out, and let's give it to, say, the clergy. Then it would increase their loyalty and their influence. Just the only thing you need to worry about there is that little 2 number. Says 289.7. You want to make sure that stays under 100. So right now it would increase their influence to 89.7, so we're fine. We're going to do that, and now I get 100% of whatever the estate is. So now I'm making 0.69 off this province instead of 0. Cool little feature. That wasn't the optimal one to give that particular province to, but I just wanted to give it to somebody. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out here, and I'll come back if one of the other two things that I want to talk about in this video happen. Okay. So one of the other things that I had hoped would happen is going to happen. So one thing is it does take a day after you get 100%. Each one of these is every month. The tick goes up, and if you get to 100%, it does take a day for the rebels to fire, so I know they're going to fire here in a moment. Another thing that I did is you can decrease autonomy. Once you have it in a state, you can decrease the autonomy, and that will actually increase the unrest in the province by 10. So important to remember. But they're going to fire here. So there's going to be a rebellion that is going to fire. It's going to have 16,000 troops. And it's going to fire somewhere. Now, I actually know where it's going to fire. Because it's going to fire, typically speaking, in the largest development province that you have. So it should fire here in Granada. Sometimes if it's a really, really big, it might fire in a couple of provinces. But this one should fire in just one. So we're going to come in and we're going to defeat it. So there it is. It fires here. We are going to knock that rebellion right on out. If a separatist rebellion finishes a siege of a province, then it gets 10 more years of separatism. So instead of at 13.3, it would be at 23.3 or 0.5. So you do want to get rid of the rebellions as quickly as possible. If you can jump on them quickly, that would be great. And we win. The rebellions don't retreat for the most part. Pretender rebels are the only rebellions that retreat. And so we do have a situation where we have defeated the rebellion, and now the unrest in these provinces is at 0 because of a recent uprising. So if their rebellion fires and you beat it, recent uprising minus 100. And I think that lasts for till August of 1463, so for nearly 10 years that lasts. So that is a big, big boost. Now we're going to wait for the last thing I wanted to do. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to talk about today was disasters. This is the top of the menu up here. We'll talk about colonialism later. So the last thing I want to talk about was disasters, and one of the reasons I picked Castile, because they have a special disaster called the Castilian Civil War. These disasters each have some thing that triggers them. So Civil War, just regular Civil War, you have to, have less legitimacy, autonomy, stuff like that. Dominance of the clergy over 100, nobility over 100. There is something for the other one, the burghers being over 100, peasants war. And each of them have an effect, right? The following effect is national unrest is 5, stability cost modifier plus 50. This is all of this stuff going on here. Castilian Civil War is kind of special. It had a few features, one of which was to have an heir who is a weak claim. So we made that happen. Or a claim below like 70 or 80. So we have a weak claim that's a claim strength of like 25. So that is bad. So right now, as Castile, it's very, very difficult to get out of this. There is a DLC that can help you, but it's kind of out of it. What effects does it have? It has a national unrest of 7 plus 7.0. So instead of minus 1.63, we would have a massive national unrest. Really, really bad. And it's going up currently at 2 because stability is less than 1, and the ruler has low administrative and diplomatic skill. I will be back when this disaster fires. Okay. So the looming disaster now is at 98%, which means that next month it will start. So right now our unrest is, of course, at negative 1.68. I'm aware that we're going to do this. So one thing I could have done would be to slow it down and see if I could get one of these things, right? Lesser part in the junior union. So I couldn't really get many of those, but I could at least slow it down and prepare better if I had hit stability. So we can increase our stability. Now it will only go up +1, so when I go one more month, it will only be at 99 instead of 100. So that would have doubled the length of time. If I kept the stability at 1, that would have doubled the length of time. But we can't stop it. Here it comes. There it is. So we have the Castilian Civil War. You can see that the stuff here has gone straight up. So it is now at +0.731 because of the Castilian Civil War is at 7, and we also lost 2 stability. So we went from +1 to -1, and that increased us by +2. This gives us rebels. We have Hussite heretics in a few provinces. That would be 23,000 if they fired. We have Castilian noble rebels again in 15 provinces. That would be 31,000 if they fired. And particularists. And they're in only one province. That would give me 10 if it fires. So now we have an event. That was where the 2 stability was there. And so you have choices that you can do. We can keep our current king, which brings us closer to Portugal, or we can go closer to Aragon with a 135 heir, and presumably change things around. Either one's going to result in pretender rebels. So we're going to just support the Aragonese candidate because I hate Portugal, right? And so these provinces go under the occupation of these pretender rebels, and also we have them fire. We can also get some generals in charge. Let's get another one because shock is most important. Just to make sure we have some generals present, right? So we're going to want to make sure we can get that administrative power so we can boost our stability because I need 100. So I might consider at that point getting a level 2 advisor. Missionary strength level 2, that seems great. I can afford him, so that gives me 1 more admin power per month. We're going to need it. Let's fight these rebels off. Now, like I said, pretender rebels actually do retreat. So now, Aragon, because we sided with them in the Civil War, they're going to give me some stuff to try and help. 2,000 manpower, 50 military power. Great. I like that happening. And we're going to, everyone come over here. We're going to finish off these rebels. Now we can come up here and try and finish off these last rebels, and then we can figure out what we're going to do about this civil war. Let's go ahead and do this. We can accept their demands, or we can get rid of them, right? It's based on loyalty, but you'll notice we lose tax income, or we lose stability. Well, we want to get stability, right? We need stability, so we're definitely going to just lose tax income. I happen to see that nobility over 59%. If I hadn't already done it, I could now raise additional levies to do that because they would only lose 15. You want to keep it between 40 and 60. It's about all you need to know about estates. Let's just keep it within 40 and 60. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and crush this one down here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to send 1 army to each one of these forts because I want to unsiege them before rebels enforce demands. So one of the things that happens here is that if they occupy provinces, they get toward enforcing the demands. If they can occupy half the country and the capital, I think they have to occupy the capital, then they will break the country and every rebellion will get their demands. If you just let this go up, let's see if it goes up per month or if it's going up based on number of provinces. All right, so had they gotten some more provinces, then if that goes up, just that one. If they don't have enough to break the country, and by the way, that's all rebels. If half your country is occupied by rebels, it breaks, and all the rebellions, get their effect. They get their wishes. Now, what they want to do is they want to install Ignacio y Cortio, which is a 404. and the government would change to a despotic monarchy. Our current heir will die, and this guy becomes a ruler. So there's another way that you can handle rebels, and that would be just to accept their demands, but these ones will never negotiate. How about the noble rebels? They would accept the demands, and whatever the demands are, just become here. So you would gain 20 local autonomy. That would crush my economy, as well as the 20 legitimacy would hurt with more unrest. But it's doable. This would be only in Mercia. So let's see. The burghers' influence would gain 15, which I don't really care about. These guys are highly unlikely. 10,000. Don't really need to worry about them. Hussite rebels. Acceptance for Hussite. So we would lose 50 prestige, which would lower my ability to fight, as well as gain autonomy there. I don't really want to accept anyone. I'm not worried about 10,000 in either of these stacks. So, basically, we need to figure out what we need to do. If you hover over the disaster, you can figure out it ends when. So I need to have a stability of 1. So I need to get that admin power if at all possible. I need to have fewer rebel-controlled provinces than 1, so I need to siege these back and destroy any rebels that fire. See that problem there? There's going to be more rebels that fire. And I need to make sure that any rebels that currently are spawned and sieging something down, even though they don't have it sieged, because they can't control the province, are not pretender rebels. Right now there are no pretender rebels around. So I'm going to go ahead and pop out here so that we can get the blockade on this province here. Alright, so something that happens as disasters are active is that new event spawned people can come up. So one of the things that you can do is, I know we're going to have 6 in Soria. So let's figure out, where is Soria? It's right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Shift, consolidate these regiments, and then that one that has only 160 men, I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to leave it just to make sure that I keep whatever siege progression I had. And then I'm going to move these guys here to Soria. And that really helps. Now I'm going to click the button. You have 3 months before this button automatically clicks. When you click the button, we have a new revolted pretender rebels. And I was already sitting on the province, so now I am the defender instead of the attacker, which in this case means that he loses the 1 for terrain rather than me, which is really going to help, actually. Now when we come over here, we just stack by them because of things. In order to remove that, you just have to click on another province, and the outline goes away. So we're going to try and get there. I will come back. Oh, now we have enough for that 1 stability. I know I need 100 more. But you'll notice just that 1 stability, it lowered the unrest nationally by 2 and got rid of so many of those. Right? But there are 3 provinces that are occupied by the rebels, and there are 2 more, Jane and Burgos, that are building up a new set of pretender rebels. So I know that once I have sieged these down, I'm going to plot my armies on those 2 provinces to try and get rid of any and all support for pretender rebels. But I will come back when I am out of the war, and we can figure out what happens then. Okay, so I took the last provinces down, and even though there's no progress, we do have, 6,000, I guess, base. Hey, this would be 6,000, but we have no rebel control provinces. There are no spawned rebels that are pretenders. Presumably, I think that would continue as long as this would go, that some event might spawn them. And we have enough admin now to boost to level 1. So now all of those are done. We have ended the disaster, and I presume, just 1 day. The disaster is gone, so now one of these others could tick up if that was a thing. But what we will do is Castillo's opinion of Aragon changes, their opinion of me changes. We gain 1 stability. Usually it gains what it took away at the start, but doesn't here. And then, boom, our national unrest goes all of a sudden down to negative 3.68 because of that. +7 from Castilian Civil War goes down, and we're through the Civil War. So that is a crash course on coring on this whole menu here. Coring, disasters, rebels, states, stability, and war exhaustion. I've been Thic Borders Gaming, and I hope you have enjoyed.